Hey, welcome back everyone. Well, in a previous video you might remember I pulled the intake manifold. So I'm going to remove this rocker cover gasket, replace it because it's been leaking. To remove this rocker cover, I'm going to start by removing these relays. There's a bracket bolt right here, and there's another one right back here, and they're both 11 millimeter. Actually, they look more like nuts that I need to take off than bolts. I said bolts, but I mean they're nuts, I believe. And that's what they look like. Okay, I'll probably just take this off and try and position it out of the way somewhere. Remove this breather, just pulls out, and it goes over to the air cleaner, so I'll just tuck it over here. The bolts on this side seem to be easy to get to, except for the one at the back that I can't seem to see what kind of a bracket is around it, but I'll take one of these out. I don't usually wear gloves, but it's really greasy back there. Anyway, that's what they look like. And these are on at 72 to 108 inch-pounds. That's inch-pounds. Inch. So I've got these 3 bolts out on this side. There's one up front here. I've been using this swivel head ratchet wrench a bit, and the more I use it, the more I like it. I have some more bolts over on this side. I'm just sort of working my way to the back. Continue on down this side and get all these bolts out, and then I'll try and get to the one in the back. Let's see if I can break it loose. Oh, no problem, but there is that one in the back that's still holding it. So these 2 pieces were resting, I think like this, and this was the bolt in the back, and I did bend them a little bit, but they were like this, and there was not a nut on top at all, and I was trying to pull these off, but they were getting hung up on the threads. So be advised, there could be a nut on these might even be missing in the back, I don't know, but they were hung up on the threads, and after I pulled them off, this bolt came out. I mean, I was able to loosen the bolt and take it out. So there you go. That was a pain, I will tell you. Well, unless I missed something else, I believe the rocker cover should come off now. I just got to get it around the cables at the back, stuff in the front. Looks like the radiator hose. Don't make me take the radiator hose off, please. So I took the radiator hose loose because the front lip of the cover was catching on the radiator hose. Now let me see if I can get it out. Well, I can lift it up now. All I have to do is clear the fuel lines in the back, turn it to the right, turn to the right, and pull it on out. There's what she looks like upside down. What a mess, huh? Ugh. Okay, I don't know if you saw this or not, when I took the rocker cover off, this push rod was not on the rocker, and I didn't notice it right off until I was cleaning a little bit or just looking, and I saw this and said, oh my God, now there's my problem, why it was probably running rough. But it doesn't matter at this point because I was going to change the gasket anyway, and I could smell fuel, so I was going to do some either O-rings or fuel injector replacements anyway. This rod came off. It was in the winter when it was cold and I was starting it up. Now I don't know whether the valve stuck or something went wrong with the lifter. Okay, you have to move a few things out of the way first, and one of them is the distributor cap wires. I want to take it off, and the distributor stays in. This is the #1 spark plug right here, and there's a 1 on the cap to let you know, but I'm just going to put a little mark with my marker and remind me that it's #1. Goes clockwise. The firing order is 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. So number 4 is the cylinder that is out. Anyway, I'm going to take the cap off and the wires, and then I'll have to remove any other pieces. Looks like the distributor mounting bracket has to come loose. The dipstick tube's probably going to be in the way. It looks like it's attached to the push rod cover as well, which is right below this hose, or excuse me, this wire loom. And remember, firing order 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4 goes clockwise rotation. #1's on your cap. You just take your cap off and pull all your wires off. Okay, the cap is off, and now I can see that these things here, there's a spot for mounting right there, are held on with twist ties, of which I'm probably going to have to cut off. Alright, the coil bracket is held on by 2 10mm bolts at the bottom down here. They're not very tight. In fact, I'm just going to break them loose with my wrench. Take them off with something else. I meant to say take them out with something else. A little cordless screwdriver works pretty good. There's one. This needs to come off right there. That is the what holds the dipstick tube, and I might be able just to turn it out of the way. This also is a 13mm. That was just a little, sort of like a cap nut. Okay, right here, this will take a wrench, and it screws into the block, and it holds the whole dipstick tube. Used to, you could kind of bend these out of the way, but not today. This is a 17mm nut, or actually it's a long, looks like a long nut. Anyway, as I'm loosening it up, it was pulling back from the holder here, like that. Looks to me like the whole thing is turning. Okay, that's loose enough. That has got to be loose enough. Okay, I'm not going to take the dipstick tube out if I don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and cover this, and I'm going to take the cover bolts off. These pushrod cover bolts are on with inch-pounds of torque. Believe me, that is really a small amount. What I'm going to do is take this plate off first that holds the wire loom. And I think these are 10 millimeters still. That's what I'm hoping. So I'm going to take this one loose and then this one loose. And this plate should come off. This is what the bolt looks like that holds the dipstick tube on to the cover. And this is what the other, most likely the other bolts will look like. And now the cover mounting piece. Looks like it's held on at the back actually. I thought it was held on right here, but I just took a bolt out that held the dipstick tube on. So I've got one at the back. And then this cover will be loose. But you can see these bolts are not very tight. I was able to pick that little mounting piece right on up. Little holder piece is off. Well, I've got 3 more bolts to go, and I'm going to get this one, and this one. The last one is underneath the power steering mount. Seems to be easy enough to get to, and well, let's see if this rocker cover is going to come off with a screwdriver. No problem. Just sort of dropped in my lap. Towards the back, coming out the front. Here's what she looks like. Needs to be cleaned up a bunch. I want to check, especially number 4, but I want to check these lifters to see if they're traveling nice and smooth in their bores. I suspect that that lifter may have, number 4 here, it may have stuck in the bore and caused the rocker arm to come off that I just put back on. I was going to do a compression check, but I'm going to wait on that. I'm going to take all the push rods out. I'm going to clean them, and I'm going to take the lifters out, clean them, clean the bores. Should be able to take the bolts that are holding the rocker arms on. They're 17 to 23 foot-pounds, and I should be able to loosen the bolt up enough to set the arm off to the side. Okay, I have all the rocker arms backed off. The push rods are loose. I should be able just to lift them all out. I'm going to put them in a order in a small box, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a second. Now with push rods, the main thing to do with these to make sure they're straight, and there's a hole all the way through them, and you want to be able to see out the other end when you, it's like looking down the barrel of a gun. But anyway, if they're clogged up, you're not going to get any oil up here where you need it. So you can clean them up, put them on a sheet of glass, a window or something if you have it, something really flat, and roll them, and if they all roll nice and smooth, your push rods are good. Here's a shot of the dirty push rods. They haven't been cleaned yet, but I got them in a well-recognized box, and just put a little slit or a little hole, and they push right in there and held pretty good. It's a good way to keep them. I'll clean them up and they'll all go back in order. I've got them numbered all the way to number 6 there. Alright, I'm moving on to the lifters, and I have soaked the whole valley in a light, lubricating, penetrating, rust-dissolving oil, and I'm going to let that sit overnight. I couldn't find my lifter removal magnet, and I tried a magnet retrieval tool, such as this, and it was working to an extent that I could maybe get some of the closer ones. I could get to them a little bit. You can hear that. Getting stuck all over the place. But it was just pulling off too easy. But what I did is I went and got a computer magnet, a magnet I believe it's out of a computer hard drive, and this is what it looks like. And I attached it to the back of one of my chisels, flat blade chisel. So this magnet is not strong enough itself, it will break. So the chisel needs to be a piece of flat metal, maybe even a hacksaw blade, piece of hacksaw blade. The background noise is chickens laying eggs. In case the first video didn't come out very well, here's how I take a lifter out. I sort of just work it up and down. Oh, my glove's caught. Work it up and down. Got it up a little bit. If I get it stuck up a little bit, what I do is take some carb cleaner. Get around it real good. And then some light lubricating oil. That thins things out on the oil some. And now I just work the lifter in and out. Down and up. That's where this magnet's gotten stronger. Gotta keep it off the block. Trying to do this at an angle so you can see what's going on here. And then she comes out just like that. After the lifters are clean, I'm inspecting them for wear. I don't believe I'm going to take them apart. I don't want to clean the inside. I've cleaned lifters inside before, and these are not looking all that bad. You want to inspect the bottoms. They're supposed to be convex, not concave, and you can take one lifter up to another one and just sort of see how they are. Now all my lifters, I've been doing this too, and they are a little tiny bit concaved. I don't think that's going to show up on the camera or not, but they all look fairly good. No chips, no pits, no galling. Galling is where they rubbed and almost welded pieces of themselves. Okay, so I'm going to continue on pulling the lifters and then cleaning them. And then I'm going to clean the lifter valley down in there and the bores that they go in. And then I'm going to probably go up on top and then clean each rocker arm. Under each rocker arm there's a plate where each bolt goes through. This plate sits on top of the head, and this arm has a piece that fits in it like this. Not necessarily like that, more like this. Now, I'm cleaning these pieces. I'm making sure to clean the channel inside the rocker arm itself and to clean the little hole back here where the push rod goes. In addition, this piece here, you can see the little oil channels. Bolt comes out, and I'm cleaning that channel as well. Now what I want to make sure I do is the channel inside here fits the oil channel inside each one of these fulcrums. And this one here looks like it's narrow at the front and wide at the back. So I would put the narrow at the front oil channel and wide at the back, and then of course the bolt. In addition, I am putting assembly lube on the undersides of these, right in here as well, in the run channels. And I'm also putting assembly lube on top of the valve stem, and when I put the push rod in, assembly lube will also go up in here on the end of the push rod. So assembly lube here and here, and on the fulcrum run channels, inside. Just for clarification, these what I refer to as run channels, they're run channels for oil. I suppose if you did get these narrow and wide ends reversed, that probably the oil would still be able to lubricate because of the grooves that are cut in there. Alright, I've got all my rocker arms cleaned and lubricated all the way down to the back. I'm going to put the lifters in, but you're only going to see partial. What I'm going to do with the lifters is I'm going to lubricate the bottoms and the sides with the assembly lube. I have my lifters positioned in an egg carton, starting with the furthest one away, number 6, and then on down 6, and then 5, and then 4. Don't mind the chickens in the background, they're just laying eggs. Here's how I'm putting the lube on. And then I'm also running on my fingers. And I'll put some more down in the tops here after I get them in. They sure go in a lot easier than they came out, that's for sure. Now I've come to the point where it's time to put the push rods back in. And I just go down the line, take them out of the box in the order I put them in, or the order that they're supposed to go into the engine. And then I'll come back and I'll put assembly lube on the tops of these. You already saw the box I used for containing these little guys. Alrighty, time to put some assembly lube on the tops of those rocker arms. Excuse me, on the tops of those push rod ends. Now what I'm going to do is set the rocker arms on top of the rods. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to snug them down a little bit. I've already got assembly lube on the tops of the valves. Just going through with the socket and making sure they're all seated, tightening the bolt down. Okay, I'm just going through, getting a little bit more tension on the push rods, putting a little more pressure on the lifters. These rocker arms are on at 17 to 23 foot-pounds. I'm going to put them at 20. Okay, I've checked them all, or double checked them all for torque, and they're there. Everything's fine. Now what I want to do is clean up down here and put the cover back on. My gasket is on with Permatex, and also the grommets, I put them on with Permatex number 2. And I'm going to use a tacky Permatex high-tack gasket sealant, sort of a liquid on this that you would probably use on what I call belly pan or valley pans on the V8s. Yeah, I forgot to turn the camera back on, but it goes back in basically the same way it come out. I had to put the front end in first. Now what I need to do, line up a couple bolt holes, put a little light lubricating oil on the bolts. Once I get a couple started, I'm not having too much trouble with them. They seem to go right in. If you run into this where your distributor's in the way of this grommet, you might want to put this grommet on the bolt first, and it'll go in easier. So 1.5 to 2¼ foot-pounds is not very much. And what I'm going to do is an alternating pattern, and I'm just going to snug it up a little bit. I think it's snug enough to where it'll set up where it's in the right place. So what I want to do now is change the oil, and I'm going to put the oil down through the top up here very slowly, and I'll see if I have any leaks down below. If it runs out, then I'll know I don't have them tight enough. I have to take them loose anyway, a few of these, and put the brackets on that hold the wiring loom, etc. I've drained the oil, changed the filter. Nice pretty blue one now. And now I'm going to add the oil, and I'm going to add it up over here on top of the rocker arm. This will test your patience and maybe your supplier rags. This is a 6-quart engine, and I'm going to add 1 quart of some lubricating oil, mystery oil. I got to pour very slowly, and I try to keep the overflows to a minimum because I want to check the push rod cover for leaks. I believe I got it. It's empty. Well, that's an unconventional oil change right there. Okay, number 4, 95. Well, I reached a point now where I can start putting everything back together to get the rocker cover back on. And the first thing I'm going to do is start down here with the dipstick tube. My new grommets here are actually sticking out further than the old grommets, and now this dipstick tube needs to come out even further to get over the end of the bolt. Got the dipstick in all well and good. Time to put the mounting plate on for the wire loom. I hate running into snags, but I did with this. These grommets are so thick that by the time I add the plate that holds the wiring loom, the mounting bracket, to the back side here, it makes the reach for these threads beyond the reach of finding the hole that they're supposed to go into in the block. So what I didn't want to cut the grommet down any, because you'd have to cut it back here and here both. So the easiest solution for me was to find longer bolts, and I did. I also did cut this hole out a little bit so I can just start the bolt and put the one in the back side and then just drop this down over and then go back and tighten them both up. Well, I have the bracket on for the wire loom that actually goes to the coil, and now it's time to mount the coil. Okay, I got one bolt on the coil. Get the other one in and tighten it down, and the coil will be in. And then I'll have to position this wire loom. The wire loom is attached. Now it's time to put the cap back on and connect the wires. Okay, the cap and the wires are on, and plugs are all in and tightened down. And I'm going to put this piece back on that holds the air intake assembly. Okay, that piece is back where it belongs. Now it's time to move on to the rocker cover. I'm going to use some tacky stuff on the bottom of the gasket. Now you got to put the bolts in, line it up, make sure the gasket all stayed in place. I'm going to snug this up with an alternating sequence pattern. Cover is on. I hand tightened it to what I thought torque would be. Now what I want to do is bring up the switching assembly here for the air system. Alright, the rocker cover is on. I hooked up what I could hook up. Broke a vacuum line over here, two of them actually, and I'll have to piece those together with some repair work. Not quite sure how I'm going to go about that just yet, but other than that, rocker cover is on. Gasket's changed. The valve cover gasket is changed. I mean, it's all back together. And thank you all for watching this video. Thank you all for subscribing. This is Cars, Trucks, and Detours, aka Steve AZ711. It's really hot out here in Arizona right now. That's why I'm having trouble talking. Got to get something to drink. Until the next video, Cars, Trucks, and Detours. Yep. Bye for now.